Is that all it was? Started off okay. Not the sound you want to hear out of your brand new motor. Couple of SVTs this morning. In the last video, we got my 2003 Cobra on the dyno for the second time and had some successes and some failures. Good news is the motor that I put in appears to be healthy, makes all the right noises, doesn't have any mechanical problems that I can see at all. The bad news is we have some sort of fueling issue. Last video we went through a decent amount of diagnosis, fuel rail pressure sensor, swapped the math, swapped the coils, did some data logging and horsepower tuners, and ultimately we've come to the conclusion that fuel pressure is dropping when you stab the throttle. So as discussed at the end of the last video, I think my next step is to pull this fuel tank down and A, see what it's got for pumps, and B, just visually check everything, make sure it looks how it's supposed to, make sure a line didn't pop off or anything like that. Just get our eyes on it. I think the car has a little over 1/4 of a tank, so I'm gonna drain what's left in the tank just from the rail right up here, just so it's easier to manage. We'll pull it down and we'll see what's in there. Not wasting any time, let's get right to work in this one. Which wires do I jump on the fuel pump again? This guy knows what he's talking about. Nerd! Well guys, it is about a week later. I've been busy with, believe it or not, a project not related to cars at all. You homeowners will know all about this. Sometimes you gotta work around your house a little bit. Big patio walkway project I've been working on outside. Taking up a lot of time, but trying to get out here for a couple hours or an hour or so tonight on the Cobra. Here's where we're at. Pumps are out, obviously. I have discovered that we have a 100% factory 0304 Cobra fuel hat here, all the way down to this is the PPRV valve that people call, that they delete and call the PPRV delete. So you got two pumps here that feed into this Y, which then goes into the PPRV, which basically prevents fuel drain back, and then goes into the stock stainless steel feed here. I was hoping to see some smoking gun here, guys, like a split line or a PPRV delete that was done wrong and a hose had popped off or something, but everything that I can see here looks fine. All the hoses are intact, original. I don't see any holes. I obviously got my Milwaukee battery hooked up there. Both pumps come on and sound fine. So I really don't see a smoking gun here as far as a fuel pump or hat issue. Now, that's not to say that one of these pumps could be weak or they get hot and they perform differently, or under load they're different. Just because they sound all right doesn't mean that they are all right. That being said, these fuel systems are finicky. It's not always as easy as, you know, grab a set of fuel pumps online and toss them in. The fuel pump driver module, which we discussed in the last video and maybe even earlier in this video, I'm not even sure anymore, is really only designed for these original 2 Cobra pumps. A lot of guys say that if you put in, like for example, the Ford GT supercar pumps in here, they draw more amperage, puts more load on the fuel pressure driver module, can cause even more issues. So basically, this is the maximum fuel setup you can get with that existing fuel pressure driver module. And you can get modified fuel pressure driver modules or run 2 of them, but then you need wire harnesses, and it's, you know, then other guys are like myself included. Last time I modded a Cobra, my turbo Tortoretto 4 Cobra, I skipped all of this. Just got rid of the stock fuel system and went right to a return system for this exact reason. These returnless fuel systems are a pain in the butt to deal with and to modify. But for a bolt-on Cobra like this one, it should be fine if we can get the stock-ish fuel system working properly. But where I'm going with this right now is I'm thinking about putting this hat back in as is right now. Done a little bit of brainstorming, a little bit of research, and it's very possible one of these pumps is bad and we still have to come back in here. But this tank drops out in like 5 minutes. If you drain the fuel like I did just by jumping these 2 wires on the back here, drains the tank comes down nice and light, no big deal. We can put some fuel pumps in if it comes down to that. But I've got a couple more things on my list here that I'd like to try first. Obviously fuel pumps, still suspect. Fuel pressure driver module, is that our issue? That's an easy bolt-in thing right in the trunk. Is it the tune? It's been so long and such a fight with this car, it's really hard for me to remember, but something in the back of my mind is saying, when I first got this thing running and driving under its own power, I still had the original tune that was loaded on this thing. I was able to throttle it and gas it and stab the throttle, and it didn't have any issues. Turbo Mike said he loaded the stock tune, but he did it with horsepower tuners, which is the way he tunes. And I've read a little bit online that sometimes these things can get finicky with horsepower tuners. So I'd like to just flash the original tune that came in this car for the 2.93 upper or whatever this is into the car and see if it reacts any different. If it's totally fine with that tune, then we know there's a table or something that the scaling is off and I'm just on a wild goose chase with the fuel pumps out right now. But if it does the exact same thing, then maybe we know, yeah, we really do have a fueling issue. Point being, I don't want to go down this fuel pump rabbit hole if I don't have to. It would take a few days for fuel pumps to come in anyways, so I would like to knock out a few more of these variables before I go ahead and order fuel pumps and stuff that I don't need. But in order to knock these out, I need the car to be running. So I think I'm gonna put this whole hat assembly back in. We'll get some fresh 93 octane in there, and then we can start trying a couple of these things. Maybe triple and double checking all my body grounds, which I've already done, and I'm almost positive they're all solid because I just put the motor in, but let's just double check everything. Try some of these easy and free to do things right here and see where we get before I dive into the whole fuel pump fiasco. So let's get this hat back in, get the tank back in the car, make some changes, and see if we can further this diagnosis. And it's dark. Well guys, made a little progress here. Got the tank back in, got some fresh fuel in the car, got it started up, got it outside. A couple things have happened. One, I put in another known good fuel pressure driver module. If you want to know why I have a known good fuel pressure driver module, you have to wait for a future video. A little sneak peek right here. No change. I'm now using a different logging software, which appears to be much more compatible with this TI-83 Plus computer that this Cobra has here, and that's through the SCT with LiveLink. So more of the same, just in a different program here. But basically, fuel pump duty cycle is going to full, and then fuel pressure drops to, what do we get? About, low 30s, like 34 PSI, and that's pretty much when the car falls on its face, right at this peak here. Then fuel pressure spikes and then kind of gets back to where it's supposed to be. So basically the same thing we were seeing in horsepower tuners, but with, much easier to log these PIDs without the computer freezing. So it's not the fuel pump driver module. Right now, I'm loading one of the tunes that this car came with. I'm not even sure which one it was, but this one was labeled 2.93 pulley 93 octane, which is exactly the setup we have now. Looks like it's just about done. So theoretically, Mike already did this. Is there something in the woods out there? Might never hear from me again. Anyways, theoretically we already did this, but I just want to see if it's different flashing it with the SCT versus HP tuners. Because there are people who have said that HP tuners can, depending on the version you have and whether it's the beta version or whatever, they can sometimes mess with some of the tables in there. So SCT is kind of tried and true on this particular chassis. So, we don't want to be out there beating on this car with kind of an unknown tune, even though it was probably running okay. But I just want to see if it, if it falls on its face again, does the exact same thing. I think we can rule that out. But if it runs a lot better, then we know it's something to do with HP tuners or the tune itself. Turn key off. All done. All right. Car starts. That's always a good sign. All right. Let's go for a drive. All right, here we go, guys. Just gonna roll into it in second gear. No way. No way. Is that all it was? SCT versus horsepower tuners? Oh my gosh. She rips. Come on. All right, well, we're on to something. Man, I wish we figured this out on the dyno, but what are you gonna do? All right, well, you guys can't see anything, so we'll pick this up tomorrow when it's a little bit more light out, but we might have got to the bottom of this. Darn computers, man. So check this out. This is LiveLink of the poll that we just did with no hiccup, no car falling on its face. And if we come through here and watch fuel pump duty cycle, which is in green here, it was doing some funky stuff before. You'll notice now it's being a little bit more predictable. It almost maxes out. This is foot to the floor, by the way, and it almost maxes out. But we also get a much more consistent fuel pressure reading. I think the lowest we see is 34 PSI, whereas on the other one, I think we were down to like 19 or something like that, or 16. And then I think this spike after you let off is pretty normal on a return less fuel system because, you basically close the throttle plates and all that fuel has nowhere to go, so then it kind of oscillates for a second. But this is more what we would expect to see. If we open up the data log of the hiccup, as I'm calling it, see, right as we're coming up to full throttle, or just stabbing the throttle anyways, our fuel pressure is down to like 28 PSI. So something is weird there. I don't know what that is. I don't know what's causing that. It's gotta be something in the tune. Obviously, the car seems to run great now. It is the next day. Yes, I'm still wearing the same shirt. Do you guys have that chair that you keep by your bed that's designated for clothes that aren't quite clean, aren't quite dirty? Like, for example, you put this shirt on, do some tuning and you know, experimenting in a car. Then you go to bed and it's, you know, not clean enough to put back in your drawer, but not dirty enough to go in the laundry pile. That's what the chair by your bed is for. So yeah, chair shirt. Live with it. But yeah, let's take this thing for a quick drive and I can show you guys what it's like in the daylight. Just got out and voted. I don't care what your political affiliations are, who you like, who you don't like. Just make sure you get out there and vote. That's what makes our country, those of you watching from the United States anyways, so it makes the United States so great is that we have the option to vote, choose who is going to be leading our country. So get out there and vote. Take your Cobra there. Now about our recently found power in the Cobra, let me show you. All right, here we go, quick stab. She's rich, but rich is safe. And we could have never done that before. As soon as you got past like half throttle, the thing would fall on its face, go dead rich, then dead lean. Woo! She's got some balls. We are back, baby. We are so back. Man, I cannot wait to start the cosmetics on this thing. This thing probably hasn't had a coat of wax on it since the Bush administration, and yet it still looks insane in the sun. We'll get there, but as of right now, this thing is running perfect. I mean, it's a little bit rich, but that's, like I said, this is a previous owner's tune that, you know, was a very similar setup obviously and should run pretty good, but it seems like it's safe because it's rich. But I don't want to drive it or beat on it too much other than quick stabs of the throttle until it's fully tuned on a dyno or you know, reading correctly on the wideband. But we know 100% that something in the tune was our issue. The SCT tune that I just loaded is night and day. Before, like I said, you got into it any more than half throttle or quick stab and it fell right on its face, cut out immediately. I had my foot to the floor there like twice, and car just pulled and pulled and pulled. So we are back. So at this point, I'm kind of going to put this on hold. The next step is fortunately, but unfortunately, to go back to the dyno and hopefully get some final pulls on this thing. The motor's running perfect. It seems like the tune thing we might have figured out, or at least figured out what's wrong and how to fix it. So I'm in contact with my tuner now, see if we can get a date to get back down there and hopefully get this thing on the rollers. So I'll see you guys then. If not, if I decide to do something else to this thing in the meantime, then I'll see you at that point. But we are done for tonight. Catch you guys later. All right, couple days later, man, forgot sunglasses. Hate that. I'm still working out what I'm gonna do as far as getting this thing tuned, but at least we know what the problem is, we know how to fix it. But in the meantime, while I sort that out, I would like to get going on some of the cosmetics that has been bugging me. This one particularly has been bugging me since basically I bought the car. Some of you OGs might remember the tint that was flapping behind me, peeling off when I first got the car running and took it for my first couple drives. That got old pretty quick, so basically to make it a little cleaner in the, for the time being, I sliced it basically right below the dot matrix just to stop it from peeling any farther and stop flapping around. But obviously it looks a little funny, Looks like, those ricey diesel truck owners that do the bottom half of the windshield and the top half of the windshield like they're in a World War II turret or something. Stop doing that. Get some help. Tint guy's coming tomorrow. So anyways, we got to get that thing off of there so that he can apply the only tint that you should ever apply to any rear window, which is, of course, 5%. In order to get a clean deinstallation or removal, we want to make sure we get rid of all the adhesive. Another plane, for crying out loud. Coast Guard. Yeah, we got to get this tint off. So let's fire up the steamer, make sure we get all that adhesive off, get the window nice and clean, get ready to get some fresh 5% on this thing. Here we go again. Well, it has been, I don't know, a couple days, a week. I don't even remember, but I got updates. First of all, got the rear window taken care of, 5%, just like I said, looks so much better. We actually did a black vinyl up here at the top. You guys that are familiar with tinting or the dreaded dot matrix. So we did black vinyl there, so it looks much better from the outside. You don't get all sorts of weird stuff in here. Looks good there. Matches, was existing tint on the car. This is probably 20%-ish. Looks good. No more flapping tint in the rear. And you can hear the fan running right now, and that's because I'm flashing the computer again. And that is because I have made the decision to finish the tune in this car remotely. That's right, we're doing a remote tuning session on this car, and that is with a respectable tuner in the 0304 community. His name's Kevin Dunn. I believe he goes by 04 Sleeper on some of the forums and stuff, but he's been doing this for a long time. A lot of people are very, very happy with his tunes on these cars, you know, with much more wild setups than I have here. This is just a pulley and header bolt-on car. Really, really simple setup. And I'm doing that for a few reasons. All right, we're done. We're tuned with the base tune. Biggest one being Turbo Mike. He's a good tuner. He tuned my Camaro. I'm very happy with that. He's put in a lot of time on this car. But he tunes with horsepower tuners. And as I'm learning, these chassis are really not that compatible with horsepower tuners. You can only log 3 PIDs, and Apparently it causes some sort of table issue when you try and tune it. You know, causes we don't even know what the problem is yet. And Mike said that he would fix it. I could come down there and he would have to go through table by table, try and figure out what was going on or what table was messed up. But honestly, I don't think that he really wants to do that. And if I can save myself the 4 hours in the car to go down there again and get it remotely tuned as good or better, you know, without having to leave my driveway from a guy that basically only does these cars specifically, I'm okay with that. So will we get to see the car run wide open on the dyno and see the exact power number that it puts down? No, but it's a 2.93 upper with long tube headers on 93 octanes. Guaranteed, depending on the dyno, to make between 460 and 490 or 500 horsepower to the tire every single time. Just look at the yellow Cobra. I did hundreds and hundreds of these combinations around. There's nothing earth-shattering here, so I'm not too worried about that. What I care about is that it's safe, that it runs awesome on the street, and that it's gonna run awesome for many, many years to come. I think Kevin Dunn is the guy for that. So he sent me a base map last night. I just flashed the tune now. I've been driving the car this morning. I've been driving the car all week, actually. Why it's, you know, completely filthy again. But he wants me to log a few PIDs. I'm gonna send the log back to him. I guess he's gonna revise the tune, and I think we're gonna go back and forth a few times until the tune is absolutely perfect. I've got a wideband, I've got a way to log, everything you need to do a good remote tune. So with that, let's get this thing up to temp, get the logs that he needs, and get this remote tuning process going. Widen the injector pulse by 3 milliseconds. Tune the NOS timers. Now we're gonna run 9s. All right, so we did some logging. I sent that over to the tuner. He got back to me in an hour or two. Said, let's stick with the same tune. Now I want you to log all these other things and do a wide open pull, third gear from 2,000 to 4,500 RPM. So we got all those PIDs logging right now. So let's find a good, decent stretch of road out here in Mexico and give her the beans. Well, started off okay. Man, things you don't want to hear with your brand new motor is a knocking, but I guess that's about as good of an outcome as you can expect. Shredded belt. Why did that happen? Can we rip this off and make it home? Look at that. Why would that have happened? Oh God. It's like pulling a thing off a sweater. Damn it. Why did that happen? Friday, 5:30. Should have gone to happy hour. God damn. Watch your eyes. Alright, well the good news is we just did our first wide open throttle pull in this car, maybe ever, I think. At least extended wide open pull. 2,000 to almost 5,000 RPM. The car pulled hard, and got some good data from my tuner. Wideband air fuel looked perfect the whole time. It was like high 11s, which is pretty much right on the money for a boosted car. The bad news is we shredded a belt for some reason, which could be, you know, partially why I thought I've been hearing like a little bit of a tick in the front accessory drive. Maybe it was that belt coming apart and I just didn't notice it. But I think I've got an extra one at home. I'm almost positive I have an extra one at home. I'm not sure why it's shredded. We'll inspect all the idlers while we're doing that. But we still got, I think that's an 8-rib supercharger belt. We still got 6, so that's good. But car also just threw a service engine soon light, so we'll have to see what that's about. We'll pull those codes when we get back, but other than that, this thing rips. All good so far. Whew! Got the heart going a little bit. I wish I was filming when that belt let go. It sounded like we lost a timing chain or a bearing in the motor, just let go. It sounded a lot like a knock, but really it was just that belt hitting the hood. But not the sound you want to hear out of your brand new motor. Let's see what codes we got here. Circuit bank 1, sensor 2. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell them the rear O2s were deleted. That's probably why. This is, yep, okay, so those are O2 sensors that aren't there, so that's not surprising. I guess I should have told him that. If you're with the EPA, actually, they are there. I don't know why those codes came up. Must have been a computer error or something. P2270, no description available. That's incredibly helpful. Awesome. EGR, oh yeah. Didn't tell me EGR was deleted either. So, okay, so there's a few here we'll have to look up online, but my guess is these are all emissions codes because I forgot to tell them. All that stuff is there. All right, well, let's see what we can do about this belt. All right, new belt is on there. That's actually the factory original Motorcraft belt. Unfortunately, I thought I had another Gates green here because as Cobras, we love the Gates green, but I don't have the right size. So we got this 7-rib. And I really don't know why that's shredded. I mean, it was a new belt 500, 600 miles ago, but I don't know. We'll see. Also, proof that I'm working on the Mercedes for any of you guys that care, so catch that in an upcoming video. But yeah, all good here. I sent the email back to the tuner, so now we wait for a response, flash a new tune, and do it again. I don't know, it seems pretty close. Car rips, air fuel looks good. We'll see what he says, but I'm happy. Woo! All right, next day here. I've got good news and bad news. Well, actually, I guess I've got good news and bad news, and then good news and bad news again. So we'll start with the first good news. Tuner got back to me, said air fuel looks good, everything looks good, but unfortunately, fuel pumps are maxed out. So that's the bad news. You can see here at the log at 4,600 RPM, we see a flat line. This yellow is fuel pump duty cycle, and it flatlines right at about 4,600 RPM, 1.0 maxed out. So we are out of fuel pump at 4,600 RPM. That means the fuel pumps are running as hard and as fast as they can. And that's not really where you want to be, especially in a fuel system. You don't want it running on that ragged edge. So we're out of fuel pump. So that's bad news number 1. Good news number 2 is the solution to that is putting in a Kenny Bell booster pump. Bad news number 2 is we just took this out. We literally just took this out on the dyno in the last video because I didn't think we were gonna need it. I thought that this was from the previous owner's Whipple setup, but who knows? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but either way, fuel pumps are maxed out. Everything looked good, but like I said, this is just gonna be some extra insurance. Gotta love doing stuff twice, but I mean, if we're on engine number 3, because I have engine number 2 here in the background, what's a Kenny Bell booster pump in the grand scheme of things? We'll get that thing wired in, lickety split. But that is going to be in the next video. I think that's going to do it for this one, you guys. We fixed the car. It runs awesome. It's getting tuned. It's almost 100% there mechanically. I put a ton of miles on it, having a blast with it, and we got to do our first wide open pull. And after all of these hours of work, all the dollars invested, man, does it feel good. So I got faith that next video, we're going to get that wired in. We're going to get the tune dialed 100%. This thing's going to rip. And then we can finally drive this car like it was meant to be driven and really start enjoying it and get into some of the other things that we're gonna need to do to bring it home through the finish line, make this car as nice as I possibly can. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Got plenty more coming. Again, proof, Mercedes content coming, more content on everything else. And you guys know the deal. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll catch you in the next one.